Okay, this is section 2.3, objective 1. Use the least common denominator to solve a linear equation containing fractions. We're going to solve the equation 2/5 plus v equals 1/2 minus 3/10. First, what we want to do is we want to find the LCD of this equation. And the reason we want to find the LCD is we want to multiply through by the LCD. So we do not want to create equivalent fractions with the LCD. I want to make that clear. So looking at the three denominators that we have here, 5, 2, and 10, and then 10, the factors of 10 are 2 times 5, I can look at these factors to determine what the LCD here would be. So I can tell that my LCD needs to have a factor of 5 and it needs to have a factor of 2. So 5 times 2 is just going to be 10. So my LCD will be 10. Then distribute. So our next step would be to multiply each one of the terms in this equation by the LCD, 10. Once again, this is not to create equivalent fractions. We do not want equivalent fractions. We do not want all the denominators to be the same. We want to get rid of the denominators. That's why we're doing this. So the property that we're using here basically is the multiplication property of equality. I'm basically multiplying both sides of the equation by 10, but I'm just going to set it up in a slightly different way. I'm just going to write 1, 10, and I've put one set of parentheses for the whole equation. And I'm just going to show that I'm distributing to each one of these terms instead of setting up two sets of parentheses. Okay, so now that we have multiplied each one of these terms by 10, we can reduce some of these fractions because they have common factors. So looking at the first one here, I can divide through by a factor of 5. That'll leave me with a factor of 2 on top. And in the second fraction, I can divide 2 into 10. That'll leave me with a factor of 5. And 10, those cancel out. Okay, the first part here, 2 times 2, that's going to give me 4 plus 10v equals 5 minus 3. Step 2. We're going to be combining like terms. So let's just go ahead and write that out. Combine like terms. Five minus 3, so those are like terms, so I can combine those two together. 5 minus 3 is going to give me 2. Okay, now we're ready for step 3. Step 3, we are going to isolate the variable term. The variable term in this case is the 10v. So we want to get 10v by itself. Since we're adding a positive 4 to the 10v, we want to do the opposite of adding a positive 4. So we are going to subtract 4 from both sides of the equation. to isolate the variable term. We'll be left here with 10v is equal to negative 2. Step 4. Step 4, we want to solve for v, which means we need to have a coefficient of 1 in front of the v. So I need to get a coefficient of 1 in front of my variable. In order to do that, since I'm multiplying v by 10, I need to do the opposite operation, which is divide by 10. 10 divided by 10 is just going to give me a 1. There is my coefficient of 1 now in front of my v, so I don't have to write it. I could just write v equals, and negative 2/10, I can reduce that. There is a common factor of 2 in the numerator and denominator, which will cancel out, and I'll just be left with a negative 1/5. So this will be my final answer. Now, before I can determine that this is my final answer, I need to check it. Everyone needs to get into the habit of always checking their work, especially on test days, because there's too much at stake. Your tests are weighted a lot more than homework and quizzes most of the time, and you want to make sure you are checking all of your solutions. In order to check this, what we're going to do is we're going to substitute the value of negative 1/5 in for v every time I see a v. So now that I substituted that in, I'm ready to simplify here and see if this comes out to be a true statement. This is going to give me positive 1/5 on the left hand side. In order to combine these two fractions on the right hand side, I need a common denominator, so I will multiply by 5 to the numerator and denominator of 1/2. That'll give me 5/10 minus 3/10. And this is going to give me 1/5 is equal to 2/10. 2/10, I can reduce that to 1/5 because we have a common factor of 2 in the numerator and denominator. Oh yeah, that's fine. So now we have 1/5 is equal to 1/5, and this is a true statement, so we know that our final answer is going to be negative 1/5. So make sure you write that instead of braces for a solution set. Final answer is negative 1/5. Next example here, we're going to follow the same procedure. We're going to first find the LCD and multiply through by the LCD. Okay, so looking at this equation and looking at all of the denominators here, I can tell that my LCD is going to be 4. But I'm going to write out the step right here, find the LCD. Now that I found the LCD, I can multiply through the entire equation by the LCD. And once again, we're multiplying through by the LCD. We do not want to create equivalent fractions. We do not want to get the same denominator in all of these fractions. Okay, so you're going to notice here in this step I'm not going to distribute the 4 to the 3n plus 5, and the reason I'm not going to distribute it is because I'm going to end up canceling out common factors before I do that. Also, I'm not going to distribute the 4 to the 4n plus 2 because once again I want to cancel out common factors before I distribute. Okay, now that I have canceled out common factors, if there's any leftover factors that have not been distributed, now these are the factors I will distribute. So like this 2 will get distributed to the 3n, giving me 6n, and the 2 will get distributed to the 5, giving me 10. And that's going to give me, over here on this side, 4 times 4 is 16, and over here we're just going to be left with the 4n plus 2. Now at this point I need to combine like terms. The 16 and the 2 are like terms, so I can combine those together. So 16 plus 2, that's going to give me 18. So I'll write 4n plus 18. And now that I have combined my like terms, I need to get all of my variables to one side of the equation and get all of my constants to the other side of my equation. Alright, so since I have positive 4n, I'm going to subtract 4n from both sides, and this 10, I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides to get down the other side. And cancel out, cancel out. I'll be left with 2n equals 8. Now I'm ready to get my coefficient of 1 in front of my variable. In order to get a coefficient of 1 in front of my variable, since my variable is being multiplied by 2, I'm going to be dividing by 2 to both sides of this equation. I'll be left here with n is equal to 4. Okay, so this will be my solution, but before I write this final solution in a set of braces as a solution set, I should check it and make sure it actually is the correct solution, just in case I might have made an algebraic or arithmetic mistake. So we're going to take 4 and we're going to substitute it back into the original equation. Okay, I'm just going to leave the rest of this video in silence. You guys can watch the check on your own, and you can write down your final answer here on your own for the rest of this video. Okay, great. Thanks.